Okay, me too. Steve, I'm extremely grateful and happy that we can do this today. We tried to
Me
do it a
too.
few days ago, but I made a huge mistake and I didn't record it. And so it's very gracious of you to do this again, okay? Because we've been here for 6 days now, starting on Sunday and ending today, Saturday. And we've been studying your book and studying your teachings and the teachings of the group on the 12 major life lessons. And we've been working with one lesson each day, well, actually two lessons each day, trying to see what obstructs us from learning those lessons. Uh, we are here in Greece, as you know, and this your book is actually a part of a seminar in the fifth year. The seminar is 7 years, and the fifth
Wow.
year, and in 14 classes, we study the book and we try to employ, overcome any obstacles to embodying those qualities, such as adaptability and love and
Right.
acceptance and creating boundaries and taking responsibility for our lives. So we're very grateful today that you're going to talk to us and answer some questions, and then we will translate that into Greek.
I'll
So
be happy to.
would you like to? Okay, thank you. So you will be
Yes,
going into contact?
yeah, I'll start with the channel if that's okay. It's kind of it's a
Okay,
great way
yes.
for the group to start the energy and to really get things moving.
Okay,
Anyway, and I'd just like to say thank you, Robert, for inviting me to be a part of this. I absolutely love doing this when teachers, especially, are teaching some of the things they may have
mm,
triggered from us. So anyway, I'm very honored to be here, and the group's excited. They're very excited about this whole process. So I'm going to
thank
bring
you.
them in.
Thank you very
We'll do a
much.
short channel, and then we can go right into the questions. Okay. All right.
Okay.
Greetings from home, dear ones. I am the keeper of time. I join you this day, for you are at a critical time on planet Earth. The energies that you have moved through have changed everything behind you. Like a large ship going through the water, you left a wake behind you of all the energies that you have been trying to work with, the things that you have been integrating. Now, there's an interesting process with the evolution of humanity that we'd like to speak about for just a moment. And that is very simple, that it doesn't, as you well know, looking back at your own history, it doesn't gradually move from one thing to the other. It comes to levels and then it jumps. Well, the interesting aspect, this is why you're having difficulty still finding the missing links, you call them. Basically, because humanity took jumps, leaps in evolution. You're not the only ones that do this. Plants and animals do this as well. But the interesting aspect about this is you are there right now. This is a huge, when you look back at this, some 70 to 50 to 75 years from now, you're going to see this time now as a critical moment in the history of all of humanity. There's a lot of things that are exploding all at once. You've seen it happen. You've seen the technologies that are exploding on your planet. They try to give you the fear that they're going to take over. All the interesting things that you've seen take place with your technologies and the fear around it. But we also tell you that you're exploding in a lot of different ways. That is only one area. And as we've mentioned, there's challenges with all of it. You're evolving human understanding of nature. And that takes time. And what you're seeing in the beginning is that everyone seems to go for the shortcuts rather than the long answer. That is natural human nature. We're not worried about it. but we do wish to bring it to your attention because you see, we are speaking to a select group of people. Whoever is watching this has basically been called here by us. We have a tendency to call people in to listen to things. And this is one of those aspects because there are a select group of people on the planet that are here to help ground and change this energy to the next level and help it ground without all the wakes, without all the challenges, without all the waves behind the boat, to be able to shift into a higher vibration and work with that. Now, many of you have been calling this the fifth dimension. There's all sorts of different levels of vibration that you can classify it with. It doesn't really make any difference. The most important part is humanity is changing. And the changelings, those that came in with the pieces to be able to do that, are sitting here in front of us. Many of you have chosen those roles specifically to be here at a critical time. Now, you might be taking this course for one reason or another. You might be interested in this subject for one reason or another. And that reason may take you to the next level, or it may change because a lot is shifting very quickly. But we tell you exposure and awakening, to become awake, to become aware of everything that is around you in a new way. You are conscious creator beings. You create everything that you see. Everything that you hold between your head and your heart, you manifest in your world as you walk through it. It's amazing for us to watch. Yet, you still have your challenges, of course. You're here on Schoolhouse Earth. You've chosen to set up certain lessons for yourself in different ways. That's perfect. But we tell you, you are here at a very critical time. Take all that you can and gain whatever you can to gain the confidence to move forward, because that is one of the biggest aspects that we can give you, is the confidence to take those next steps one at a time, the step forward, to dare not to fail, to dare to simply step forward and experience, period. Enjoy that journey, dear ones. You're much further along than you can imagine. Own your mastery. That is our words to you today. And walk tall. It's with the greatest of honor we ask you to treat each other with respect, nurture one another, and play well together. I am the Keeper of Time. Espavo.
Espavo.
Give me just a second to kind of get Steve back. Coffee helps.
Well, it's okay. We can stay with the group. No problem. Thank you.
You can, too. You can. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Okay. Well, whole concept of soul contracts as opposed to just karma. As I perceive it, we choose life experiences based on karma and soul contracts in order to learn various lessons and continue our evolutionary process. So one of the questions is that if I choose to be the abuser in order for someone else to take life lessons, well, there's two questions here. Am I obliged to do that? Can I let go of that contract? And also, can the victim let go of it? And secondly, am I creating karma because I have taken on this contract?
That's interesting.
To help somebody by being their
To
abuser?
help somebody. No, you don't. There's fascinating things that take place. The group gives this illustration of what they call the big table. This is a huge oak table. I'm a woodworker myself. So this is beautiful oak table that's there that can seat as many people as can sit around it. So it expands. It's on the other side of the veil. And this is where we bring in all the people that we want to experience during a lifetime before we're born. And we make contracts with them. And we ask this person to play this role, and this person to play this role, and this person to play this role. And sometimes we do ask people to be in our way, to will you love me enough to be my abuser? Because it takes a lot of love to do that. So this is a different aspect to look at, because we always here on the planet, We tend to see things in third-dimensional realities, black and white. The abuser's the bad guy, the abusee's the good guy. At home, not so. They're both at the table shaking hands, saying, yes, I'll do this for you. Now you come down. Both people are in evolution. So not just only is the abusee who asks the person to abuse them in evolution and trying to learn something, but so is the abuser. The abuser's also trying to learn something and trying to evolve.
I agree.
If either one of them can learn that lesson before it gets to a critical point, they do not have to experience it. Does that make sense?
It makes a lot of sense, and it seems very just, and I believe it. But I was thinking today, that means then there is actually no karma. Because maybe there are some actions in which some person is harming another person, which is not an agreement. So I'm trying to figure that out. Okay, you understand what I'm saying?
Well, the karma is only
situations in which one person, yeah.
Yeah, but the karma is really
If
only
all
for the
situations.
original piece of it, I think. So anyway, basically how it sets things up, that because of the karma that we had in the previous lifetime or the previous experience, that is our setup. But what we do with that, we're on the planet of free choice. We do not have to follow karma. We can go against it. We can go with it. We can resolve it. We can put it aside and not deal with it till the next time, which we do often. There's a lot of things we can do to try to ignore it and, play our own game, which we do a lot. But it's just the beginning. It's just the setup. So the karma determines the setup. Now, when you are working with another person and being an abuser in accord with them, are you creating karma? Yes, but it's by agreement. So it's a different situation. It's not a karma debt, because that's basically what karma is. It's a debt. It's a debt that you either owe to society from the waves that you've gone through, or to someone else. It can many times, or it can be a group of people. It can be a lot of different things. But anyway, I don't believe that's actually created when you are fulfilling a contract.
Yeah, I believe that, and I choose to believe that everything that people do to me is a contract, and it helps me, even if it's not true. I go through life a lot better that way.
It's a
Okay.
lot.
Now the next
It's a lot
question,
easier. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. The next question is, in your book, you say that when math lessons is completed, our soul returns to it with its core personality, fully expanded. This is the manner in which God can see God, thereby fulfilling the original purpose of the game. Why is it necessary to have this experiment of free will? And why is it necessary for us to leave our source and experience the ignorance that we in order to fulfill this? What game is this?
That's exactly the way the group describes it, as a game. That's exactly it. And there's a lot of frustration sometimes people feel when we talk about the game, because there's so much seriousness, so much pain and difficulty that's experienced in this game. But it is basically a game that we made up. We make up the rules. We change the rules every once in a while. We shift things. We decide as a collective of a society how we're going to play this game. We get up and put on our bodysuit every morning, which tells us what we're going to do. We're dressed for the day, basically. We're prepared for the day, and we play that out in different ways. But anyway, that's one of the aspects that we'll see about this, is that how does this play out, and how can you see it from here? I'm not quite sure I answered the question. Did we get it all?
My question is, why is it necessary? Why is it necessary at all for the whole game to take place? It's like the divine being wants to express itself and see itself, and why couldn't it express itself in perfection? And why does it need to go through a process of evolution rather than just express itself in its perfection?
I don't know the answer to that. I honestly don't know the answer to that. Like I said, they gave me in the beginning the illustration, a very basic illustration of what was going on about infinity, a circle. It never ends, it never begins. And what happens is God, in this infinite form, wanted to perceive himself, herself, but couldn't. There's no way to do that in infinity. So they take the thing and they twist it upon each other. And at that center, there's a cross where the two cross. And at that point, they become separate from each other for just a moment where they can actually look back and see the whole. That's the only illustration that they have given me about the purpose of everything. They basically told me that God is evolving God through us. So we are in
I can
evolution.
believe that.
We don't know that, and we sometimes perceive the worst of it. It would be like we've got millions and millions of cells in our fingers. Let's just say that some of the cells in there want to evolve and they want to experience life. Well, what's happening is a lot of these cells on the outside, they get the harshest experience. We're kind of the cells on the outside. We're the ones that get rubbed. We're the ones that feel things. We're the ones that have to deal with being finite and trying to get along in this world. So we kind of we're kind of at that situation where we're on the outer edge, if you will. But this is where change happens. This is where it really takes place. So even though this may be one of the most difficult places to be in the evolution of history, the reality is that everybody signed up for it and their space has been reserved because they really wanted to be here. I will also tell you that we have a lot of last timers here. Humans get to a level, spirits get to a level where they learn their, like 10 of their primary life lessons, maybe some 8, 9, whatever it is that you decide what you master. You don't have to decide. You don't have to pass any tests to see if you go to the next level. But at a certain point, you've learned everything you're going to learn here on planet Earth and you go to another level. Well, I'm not terribly sure I can talk about that other level other than just what the group has said, which is exactly what I just told you. But they have told me that there's many people on this planet that have been ready to go to this next level, but are so invested in what is taking place on planet Earth that they reincarnated here again. These are what we call last timers. Some of them are very frustrated right now, trying to be heard, trying to be felt, and so forth. But there's a lot of last timers on the planet as well that have come back to be here, and some of them will connect. Some of them will be very powerful people and be able to get the message out, be able to connect in very big ways, like you, Robert. Very much the same type of situation that we see. So there's going to be a lot of changes and a lot of shifting going on here in the days ahead. Glad we're here.
I hope so. I hope so. So what does the group say God is? What is this divine being? And is it the divine being of all of the universe? Only of our solar system, our galaxy? I also believe this divine being, we are this divine being in expression. But what are the descriptions that the group gives to the divine being?
It is the collective. We know through quantum sciences that there are atoms that are intricately connected, and you move one way, the other automatically moves, no matter how far apart they are. So we know that there are connections on levels that we don't know about. We know from spirituality, from experience of life, that we're all part of each other, that we actually have an effect on each other. And these are, of course, what the group's teachings are as well, that we're all connected. We can lean on that. We can pull on it. We can push on it when we have extra energy to give. We can give energy to it. We can pull on it in the times we need it. It is there. It actually grows when you pull on it because it kind of comes alive to the need. So there's a lot of energy that we can all share in these ways. What exactly is the source? You got me. I wish I had an answer to that. The only thing that they've told me about it is that we are all connected, And that connection is what we call God. So
Yeah.
in some ways,
Okay.
you've got your finger and you've got your fingernail, and they're different, and they're different vibrations, and they're different beings and so forth, frequencies. And yet they're both part of the whole. They're part of God.
Mhm.
And so
Okay.
anyway, that's kind of what it is. And by that expression of creating the illusion of time, the illusion of being finite, in other words, having a beginning and an end, because we're actually infinite. All of those illusions are things that we adapt to here on planet Earth. And we learn, basically. We basically learn different ways of being a human. Yeah. So
Okay. So what
that's about as close as I
does
can
the
come to
group
tell you
say?
what the source is.
Okay.
Yeah.
I agree with everything that's being said. It's the conclusion that I have come to after many years. Um, what does the group, how does the group describe the process of leaving the body and the process after death and perhaps the various levels or stages that the soul goes through before reincarnating?
There's quite a lot that takes place. The biggest challenge we have of describing this is that on the other side of the veil, there's no time. So it's difficult for us to break it down and say after 6 months you move to this level and after 6 months you move to this.
Huh.
There is an integration. One of the biggest integrations is losing time. In other words, learning to live without the references of time, which we basically have to do. So it's almost as if when we first go home, we actually create the illusion of time in a place where there is none, which is home. I hope I'm not confusing you, but basically, time
No,
is one of the
it's
elements.
understandable.
Yeah,
Yeah.
time is one of the elements that makes it confusing because there is no time on the other side of the veil.
Mhm.
Now, one of there's so many fascinating things that happen. I wrote a book about it called Crossing the Veil. Uh, First thing that takes place when you die, you step out of the body. Now, this can happen very quickly, of course, in a trauma, a car accident, things of that nature. All of a sudden, you're looking at something over there and you can't figure out what it is. Well, it turns out that's your physical body that you're actually looking at. You're in spirit. And that happens to most people that leave in a trauma. If they're leaving in a long-term situation, they're in hospice, they've been working at trying to get out of the body for some time. There are some fascinating things that take place with that. Almost everybody has a greeter. A greeter, somebody that you will know
Mhm.
from either this lifetime or another lifetime or as some connection of spirit. You'll actually know their energy. You'll see them and you'll just think, oh, there's my best friend I haven't seen in so long. And you'll understand them. They will sign up to be your greeter, to be the person actually helping you out of the physical body, to tell you that it's okay, to not panic, to don't worry, because you're in a very heightened state of creation when you step out of the body. And if people go into fear, they create the fear. And we can avoid all of that. You know, people that work in hospice, people that work in cancer wards that watch people die, these are some of the greatest healers on our planet because they actually help people cross comfortably rather than have them be in fear many times. And many of these people, hospice and so forth, tend to work with their heart anyway. So it's been an amazing thing to watch that takes place. Now, where do they go? Well, they go to a level. There's all sorts of fun things that I can tell you about it. They do have to cross through a space. They have to do that by themselves. You can't hold their hands as they go through it. In the Bible, it was called the Valley of the Shadow of Death. In other areas, it's been referred to as well. That's part of the reason you have a greeter. They want to encourage you to step into this tube or this darkness or whatever it is for you. And once you go through that, you're home. Now you have to acclimate to home. There's a lot more to this. That's a very simplified version of what I've explained. I did not include multidimensionality because you're not the only one that died. There are 11 of you, 12 including the higher self. They're all existing at the same moment, having different expressions, making different choices. The moment you die, you all die together. Now, it's not possible for 10 of them to die and for one of them to still stay alive. And for that reason, you hear a lot of NDEs, near-death experiences, where people are told, no, it's not time yet. You can't go. You have to go back. And all of a sudden, they're back in their body. They didn't want to be, but all of a sudden, they're back in their body. That's because the other dimensions didn't want to leave. They weren't aligned to leaving. So even though one crossed the veil, they were forced to come back and play the game until all of them leave at once. So that is one of the aspects of multidimensionality that takes place. When all these align, you come back together. The reason we do this is to hide our perfection. We're pretending to be finite. We are pretending to be imperfect. But really, we're perfect spirits. So we put a little bit of our perfection over here. We put a little bit over here. We put a little bit here and here in different places. When you die, you come back together in your perfection. And that is a magical, magical experience. So as soon as you step through that tube or through that, whatever it is, through the shadows or whatever that is there that would include you, that you would have to walk through. As soon as you do that, you become whole again. And the feeling of that is, it's not describable. It's simply not describable because we carry a human pain. There is literally a pain that all of us carry every moment of every day. We try to do our best to enjoy it, to find the highest part of it. But once you are relieved of that pain, it is unbelievable what you can do. And we try to bring little bits of that joy and that energy here through some of the activations and things we do as well. So that's part of it. Anyway, hopefully that'll give you kind of a clue of where they're at with that.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing, actually. These I'm forgetting all the questions I have here, because I'm very fascinated with this multidimensional concept. So
we can both channel back and forth. It's fine.
We have a continuum in this dimension, in which we leave, we come back, and we choose lessons, and what we didn't learn, we choose to learn. Are the other dimensions? Is there a continuum in those dimensions also?
They're all the same.
Do they have a separate continuum?
No,
Okay,
they're all the same.
that?
Well, I once did an exercise where I tried to actually show people what this was like. And it was an interesting exercise. We had 3x5 cards. And we told everybody, okay, we're going into this meditation. You have just died. You've stepped out of your body. You've gone through all these wonderful things that we sent them through. And now you're sitting here with this stack of 3x5 cards. We want you to write down the most important things that happened during your lifetime. And they did. And everybody would take, like an hour, write down the most important things that happened to them in their lifetime. Good, bad, indifferent, didn't make any difference. But just basically the most impressing things that took place. And then what happens afterwards, we lead them through a meditation where they look at each and every one of them. And they look at these and go, okay, I remember this. And then you simply ask yourself, are you done with this? Did you complete this energy, or is there more to learn here? Mm-hmm. And everybody knows in their heart whether they're complete or not. It's a very simple thing. So they go, okay, this one's complete. I did this was bittersweet, but I'm done with this one. Perfect. And you put it over here, and the other ones you stack up. Now you're not just doing this as one, because you've now crossed over the veil. So all 11 of you are writing out these cards. Does that make sense?
Okay.
So you're actually doing this as a collective of perfect beings looking back at your life. Yeah. And then they've also given the illustration of the veil. They didn't call the veil something that came across your face. They called it a space, a place where you go just before you go in and divide into 11 dimensions and just after you come out. And they actually said, when you come home, you leave those cards in the veil, because when you come back through, you're going to come back through that same part of the veil, and you can pick those cards up and decide what you want to do with them.
Okay. All right. Now, in your book, the 12 spiritual lessons, spiritual psychology, you say that when we have a matrix for an obstacle towards love or adaptivity or creativity or responsibility, that will be with us for all of our life as an initial response. My belief is that we can begin to change this response, but the first response will be that. But then
No, you can.
by working on ourselves, we can, after a few seconds, gradually change our response. But you also mentioned that we need to learn to use these obstacles positively. And there are some lessons for which I'm having difficulty understanding what is the positive use, for example, of a lack of adaptivity or an inability to express love or an inability to maybe some examples of how we can use this obstacle positively.
Usually the positive side of the obstacles comes from mastery. In other words, when you run across a brick wall, you go, okay, I'm stuck. I can't go anywhere. I can't do anything. But when you actually go, okay, I can't climb over it, but I can walk around it. Now you have mastered something. The next time you hit a brick wall, you're going to look around both sides before you try to climb it. So and that mastery usually ends up being taught to other people. That's what happens when we master anything. We turn into teachers. So it's just kind of what happens. Does that make sense?
Okay, I can understand. Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. Yeah. Now, the next question is, what is the most direct and effective way to free ourselves from the illusions of this physical world? How can we most easily and effectively free ourselves from these illusions?
The best way is to find the spirit deep within. We do this through meditation. We do this through all spiritual practices. And I don't just mean ones that we learn in church or ones that we learn in spiritual books or even channel books. What I mean is learning to walk in a lifestyle which reflects other people, empowers people around you. That is a higher vibrational lifestyle. And if we can live in that in even small ways, we create a space for everyone to evolve in. And that's basically what our job is, to create that space, to do what we can. Sometimes it's a small thing. Sometimes it is what we call the E factor. How do I've just met this person, they're in my life, the group's tapped me on the shoulder and say, I need to say something to this person. How do I empower them in just a few words? What can I do now that I've just met this person to empower them in some way? It can't just be an erroneous, oh, you look nice today or something. You can't just give them an offhanded compliment. But if you can actually empower them in some way, and something maybe they're wearing a ring that they obviously really like, or maybe they wear something and you notice it and you pick it up, you can empower them very briefly in a lot of different ways. Now, those small ways of empowerment build into bigger ways of empowerment. And when we can empower the people around us, suddenly we live in an empowered society. And that is exactly what we're trying to find. How do we do that? Right now, we are, with all the technologies, everything that's happening very quickly, things are going up, and this seems to be going a little bit in the opposite direction. That's normal. Humans react to sudden change, and we've had a tremendous amount of sudden change. So there's going to be a lot of reactions that are going on. Don't judge them as good or bad. We're just going to take where we are from here. We're going to make the best out of the best that we can, and we're going to try and empower the people that are in our field in some way. And you'll find that that's going to bring a heart-centered energy to you that will be with you a lifetime and probably longer. Yep.
Thank you. I agree with 100%, and that's what we're trying to do here at our center. But there's a person has to come to a certain level of letting go of his own pain and anger and fear in order to begin to think more of other people. So are there
That's it.
any suggestions for how people can let go of their personal drama, their egos? Now, what you're suggesting is behavioral therapy. Just start helping other people and keep thinking about other people. But are there some things that they can do to get to that level, to be able to think of other people?
Yeah, you start small, basically. You start looking at the larger aspect of things. When we're in this human form, we feel pain first. In other words, we feel things that are taking place to us first. When you wake up in the morning, you typically are looking for, okay, what do I need? I need my coffee. You know, we have our things to try to help us adapt to the human condition a little bit, to try and help us, and they're basically taking care of our pains. They're taking care of our human condition a little bit. Those are the types of things that we will walk through and learn to do. When we learn to think of those second, it's not that we ignore them, because we are selfish. We have to be selfish beings on this planet. We're the only ones that can take care of us and tell other people what we need or tell other people what we want. So in order to do that, we have to understand that we are going to be selfish, but many times we'll act the opposite to try and like put everyone else first. That's not what we're talking about when we talk about this aspect. You have to put yourself first. You're the only one that can go at the front of the line, plain and simple. And if you do that, there's a difference. When you put yourself in the front of the line and you ignore other people, you're being selfish. When you put yourself in the front of the line and you turn around and you have more to give other people, you're being self first. And it's a small difference, but it's a huge difference in the outcome. So that's kind of what we're looking at.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah. Has the group in any way mentioned the methods of energy psychology? For example, we use a lot of EFT and BSFF and Ho'oponopono and Sedona method and freeze frame. We're using a lot of these methods to help people overcome their emotions so they can begin thinking of other people in a more positive way. Has there been anything expressed about this? Energy
These are the
psychology.
these are the techniques. These are the shortcuts. This is perfect. Every single person on this planet is a conscious creator. They are magicians beyond their understanding. They can create things far beyond what they believe their reality to be, but they don't know how to do it consciously for the most part. They've left that part of the memory in the veil. They've left the whole history of who they were and all their memories in the veil. So when they came in, they're kind of on their own and trying to work with some of these pieces to be able to do that. The techniques, these are shortcuts. They're great. You cannot tell a conscious creator, you're a conscious creator. You can heal yourself by just touching yourself on the forehead if you believe that's going to heal you. Go ahead and do that. You can actually tell a person that. If they believe you, they will touch their head on the forehead and they will heal themselves. They will start that healing process into motion at least. So we are conscious creators, but we also needed that technique of hitting your head, didn't we? That's a shortcut. So the reality is those shortcuts, if you find one that works for you, turn around and teach it to the rest of the world. Absolutely. We can all use these shortcuts. They're very basic. They're very simple. They don't take your power away. Don't give your power to the shortcut. Don't think that there's, has to be a certain thing that that's not the idea. But look for these shortcuts because they do work. There's tons of them. The group has released several of them themselves. They've actually released one where you had different parts of the physical body that you could touch that worked out into relationships. Your relationship at work was in one thing. Your relationship in love was another one. Your relationship to your spouses was in a different place. And they could be activated by touching those places. Lots of fun shortcuts like this exist all over the place, and some of them get popular. When they get popular, they tend to work with the collective better, so they're easier to teach that way.
Yeah.
So that's perfect.
It's like okay. I'd be interested in learning these points at some point. I'll ask you that later where I can find those.
Sure.
Now, about the fifth dimension, what are the best ways that we can begin to have access to the fifth dimension and begin to function in that state of consciousness?
The first of all, let me explain that I'm talking about a different dimensionality than we were a few minutes ago. The multiple dimensions where there are 11 of you, we call that
Okay. Yeah.
multi-dimensionality. The other one we call
Mhm.
collective dimensionality, which is the third to the fifth dimension. I don't understand the counting, to be honest with you, because I'm a Tesla fan. So for me, everything breaks down into threes. But we are moving from the third to the fifth dimension. The illustration the group gave us was very simple. The first dimension is unity. It's God. It's all of us together. We broke off into that. We went through the second dimension and we gained attributes. We gained attributes of duality, being able to have contrast, to see things as up, down, right and wrong, good and bad, all the differences that we see. And we were stamped with it. In the second dimension, we also picked up the ego, helped us to be able to see ourselves as who we are. Not always accurate, but we picked it up. And then we lived in the third dimension for a very long time. Now we have started to move through the fourth dimension, picking up new attributes, and the fifth dimension has already opened. The challenge about the fifth dimension is it's very easy to create in the fifth dimension, and we end up waking up every morning and creating the third dimension inside the fifth dimension. So the idea is to know that it's already here. There's not going to be a date on the calendar or a time frame that's going to explode. There will be timeline crosses that help to push things along. There will be certainly star alignments that will help to push things along. There's all sorts of things that will help to move it. But the reality is it's here now. So how do we experience it? Well, we experience it by trying to introduce higher thought, which is what a lot of your work's about, Robert, and mine too. This is what we teach in the Lightmaster courses. This is basically the idea. And it doesn't mean that we won't slip back down into the lower vibrational thought, but we try to keep in mind the different thoughts. For instance, we talked about one of them recently, how you are alike instead of how you are different. If we can focus for just a moment on how we are alike instead of how we are different, we can start anchoring more of the fifth dimension in every aspect of our life. Now, it's not easy because we're wired the other way. We've been living in the third dimension for a long time, so we'll tend to slip back into our judgments and our old way of thinking. But that's what the group says. So try these different aspects on. We're going to be working a little bit with this too. We have an event coming up that we're going to be working with called the Envisionment Project, which is basically, it's free of charge. It'll be on YouTube. The whole idea, and you can watch it anytime. You don't have to watch it when it releases. But the whole idea is to do exactly this. We'll probably take you on an hour meditation, but that whole time is going to be anchoring a fifth dimensional reality. What does it feel like to not have this constant pull on your energy? What does it feel like to live in an empowered society where everybody, you don't have to worry about other people? What does it feel like to live in these worlds? How do we resolve conflicts up here rather than down here? So these will be the things that we talk about, and that is what the group wants to anchor. They want to anchor an envisionment of the fifth dimension. So that's kind of the way they've been talking about it.
Well, I'd be very interested in that, so you let me know when that's going to happen.
I will.
It sounds very similar to the state of consciousness of a person who has mastered the lesson of grace. It seems like this reality is very similar, this state of flow, this state of non-resistance, of everything being supported by the universe. Is this something similar?
The book was written in 2020, or excuse me, in 2000. So the book was written about 25 years ago right now. In that book, when we described the life lesson of grace, we described one person who basically had it. We basically said very few people are actually working with the life lesson of grace, and that it is a very uncommon one because it basically means you have this ability to kind of walk on water in a way. It puts you a little bit above everybody else. So the group is very concerned about people wanting to get into their ego, wanting to all claim that they're working with grace and so forth and so forth. So they just basically said it's not easy to do
Uh-huh.
that because it's one of the most difficult life lessons you can do. Now, 25 years later, they say we're all working with grace. That is what we're doing. This is the collective life lesson that all of us are working with on a collective conscious basis, is living in this higher state, being able to walk on the freshly grown grass and have it grow faster because you walked on it rather than have it die. To live in harmony with everything around us. It starts first as a thought. So that's what we're working with, is to try to create those thoughts out there, to try and put that energy out there in different ways. But that's the fifth dimension, and it's very real.
It sounds like acceptance is a very, very big part of this process. Being able to accept everything, yourself, people, the events, life, and trusting in the universe, feeling faith in everything that's happened. There's a divine consciousness supporting us in this process. That would help me in that, I think, in getting into that state.
Adaptation
So
is yeah.
yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay. So there's a question from one of the people. I don't know if you've heard of the experience of Anita Murjani, who died of cancer and came back after a near-death experience, and her cancer disappeared. And this question is that some people pray and get healed, others pray and don't get healed. Other people have some kind of shocking experience, like a near-death experience, and become healed. Others do the same but do not become healed. And the question is, what is the difference? Why are some being healed by their prayers, others not being healed because of their prayers?
There is an assumption in the question that assumes that death and illness is wrong. It's not. We all have to die at some point. And as we mentioned around the big table where we make our contracts, sometimes we make contracts to have an illness. Sometimes we can learn something from this experience that we can't learn any other way, and we actually script it. So a lot of these things that we consider to be really negative are not necessarily negative to the spirit. So if we keep that in mind, it explains all the differences. You have the person who really wanted to heal. You had the person who not just wanted to heal, but also their spirit was aligned with it. It came in, they were able to have the near-death experience, they were turned around, they were sent back, and the cancer was removed. We can have these miracle instantaneous cures. Absolutely. We all believe in magic for a reason. It happens, and we see it happen. And it's wonderful when it does it. It revives everybody. But the person right next to them who ended up dying instead of reversing there was not wrong. They had to go home. They were being called home by their other 10 dimensions. They had no choice. They could have died that way, or they could have walked out in the street and got hit by a bus. They would have found a way out very quickly. So it wasn't wrong. So we need to keep that in mind, that illness and death itself is not a sign of something wrong.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Yeah.
We all look for the miracles. So it's just we believe in magic. Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And we believe that we believe that this is the only reality, and that we want everything to be well on this reality, and so we're very attached to it.
Correct.
Well, I think our time is probably up. I'd like to ask you a personal question, and I don't know if the group has some kind of answer for me for that. This has to do with my own meditative process, and that is when I meditate and I'm getting to a state of going through another level, my body reacts. either by making spasmodic movements of the head or deep yawning, or even the hands and the feet may make some kind of movements. And it's like it's resisting going to this other level of total letting go of everything. And I wonder if there's any message for me in that, uh, why I'm being prevented from going to either another level. When I'm there, I'm feeling that, and suddenly the body reacts toward that. You getting anything?
The physical body in your particular case, your physical body has been through many different aspects, not in this lifetime as much as in previous lifetimes, but in the last one, your physical body went through a lot of trauma. So it will have a tendency to want to protect you, especially from losing consciousness in any way, because that was part of what the trauma was. And so that's what it feels like to the body. It feels like you're at the edge of losing this, of losing consciousness or losing control in some way. What I would suggest to you is to allow the body to move, but direct the movements. In other words, you feel another level of energy coming. So instead of your body reacting on its own, move it to almost to swim into that area, or to find some other way of working with your physical body to use the movement it wants to do to protect you, but to help you, and see if it can help you move into it, almost as if you were swimming into the next level of that. I've seen that before too. I've seen this with someone who did extremely deep meditations, and we know that because he was hooked up to an EEG. When you go way down to the levels that you go to, it's not actually suggested for most people because it's actually on the edge of sleep, but it's right there. And usually hypnosis does not teach you to go that low, and so forth. But I've seen people that go that low intentionally and do so as a practice, and their body usually twitches. I've noticed that. So I don't know if that helps you or not. I'm not an expert in these areas, so I can't tell you, but I can tell you what the group showed me about using your body in a different way.
That sounds great. I think your answer is right on. No one has ever been able to hypnotize me.
Yeah.
I don't let go of consciousness.
Right.
So when I begin to lose that, I'm going to let go of this world totally. The body starts reacting, and it's a very good answer. I think it's very helpful, and I like the idea of directing the mood because I can do that.
Yeah.
And if anyone is there, it won't happen. It'll happen only if I'm
No,
by
you're right.
myself.
No, you're right.
chooses.
It's by
That's what it's
yourself.
gonna
Yeah.
do.
Your body doesn't want
Yeah.
anybody else to see it. That's amazing.
Well, Steve, I'm feeling great love for you, and I thank you so much for
good.
what you're doing.
Thank
And
you. Thank you.
I'd
I'm
be very
enjoying
happy
working
to-
together. I would hope that you and I could do some fun things together in the future. We
Yeah.
we have a lot of commonalities here. I think we might be able to put something together for people in different levels. We'll see. That'd be fun.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. I have no other purpose in life, and I think the same for you. So, there's nothing else going on, but just doing this. So
I have
thank
lots
you so
going
very
on, but
much.
this
You
is
have
the
any-
most important.
Is there some last message that you would like to give to the people of Greece? Because we're going to translate this.
Absolutely. You have no idea why you are where you are for most people. There is a reason. There's a lot of movement that has put people in different parts of the world, in different areas, in different locations. This is going to be very helpful in the days ahead. We can all learn to communicate. We can learn to be on the same frequency, even if we can't communicate directly. We have ways of communicating now in this higher vibration that we're all looking to hang on to and to strengthen. It starts with little things like this, introducing some new ideas, some new concepts, seeing what grows for you, seeing what works for you, and feel free to throw out anything that doesn't work for you. We don't pretend to know everything or fit everything that's here. What the group tries to do is show you new ways of looking at things that's really what they want to do and try to empower you by doing it. So with that, we hope we've been able to empower you a little bit today. Thank you all for being with us. And thank you, Robert, for doing this. Awesome work. Awesome
Thank
work.
you. Thank you very much.
We will play again. All
You
right.
will. Big hugs, as you always say.
You bet. Big hugs.
I know you end
Big hug.
you end your messages.
Good.
Love you. Take care.
All right. Love you guys.
Bye-bye.
Take care. See you.
Yeah.